Chapter 56, Young Master Mu. Why should I apologize to her? I didn't slap her face, so she should apologize to the person who beat her up. If she had the ability, she would seek revenge on Gumo Cheng. Suanan did not want to pretend, so she was not interested in dealing with this adulterous couple. Suanan, you actually don't know that you're at fault. Mu Jinyu's face darkened as he spoke coldly. Right, I don't know. Suanan turned and left. So annoying. There was always more to come. The difference in attitude between Suanan and him was too big, so Mu Jinyu's expression turned ugly. He didn't mind that she beat up Zihan and even persuaded himself to forgive her when she went to bed with other men. Right now, what was Suanan's attitude? She did not know that he had been so angry that he had not slept that night because she had been in the man's car. Anan, apologize. As long as you apologize, I will forgive you. He held onto Suanan's hand tightly. If she did not apologize, he would not give in and let her leave. Suanan glanced at him. Let go. Apologize. Mu Jinyu said coldly again, grabbing Suanan's hand even more forcefully. Fuxin could not take it anymore. She stretched out her hand to pull Mu Jinyu's hand. Are you crazy? Let go. Suanan glanced at Fuxin and indicated for her to move away. Fuxin understood her meaning. She took a step back and covered her eyes. This Mu Jinyu is in for it. As she thought about this, Suanan quickly grabbed Mu Jinyu's hand and threw him over her shoulder onto the ground. All of her actions had been done in one go, and Mu Jinyu, who was so stunned by the fall, did not react at all. Mu Jinyu did not expect Suanan to throw him, let alone with a shoulder throw. He was completely stupefied by the fall and looked at Suanan in a daze. Is this Suanan? Brother Jinyu. Suzihan recovered from her shock. She did not think that Suanan would throw him to the ground either. No, it was Suanan who threw Mu Jinyu over her shoulder. Don't provoke me again. Suanan clapped her hands and warned them. If not for her sister being locked up in the Su family, would she have been bullied by Jiang Mei and the others? Don't provoke her anymore. Everyone has their own breaking point. Suanan, stop right there. Mu Jinyu, who was thrown to the ground in a sorry state, got up and shouted angrily at Suanan's back. He had never been so humiliated by a woman before. Suanan, did you hear me? Seeing that Suanan was walking farther away, Mu Jinyu was so angry that his face turned green. He wanted to step forward and tie Suanan up, make her apologize, and make her admit defeat. Suanan, don't think that I will marry you again. Our engagement is annulled, completely. Mu Jinyu was furious beyond words as he threatened Suanan. Wasn't the engagement annulled long ago? When Suanan heard this, she did not feel any heartache at all. Anan, your shoulder throw is still as beautiful as ever. Before they left, Fuxin hooked an arm around Suanan's shoulder. In order to protect themselves, the two had run over to the first martial school to learn a thing or two. Suanan's shoulder throw had even scared Fuxin. Yes, Suanan nodded. She looked at Fuxin, who was staring at her, and knew that Fuxin had something to ask. Speak, what do you want to ask? You in the car shook? Yes. Was he powerful? Saying that, Fuxin took the chance while Suanan was not paying attention to pull down her collar. The kiss marks on her neck entered Fuxin's eyes, causing her to stare blankly. So many. No wonder all of the clothes that Suanan was trying on today had collars. Who is that man? Fuxin asked again. Without waiting for Suanan's reply, she said with certainty, it's definitely not Gumo Cheng. That old man Gumo Cheng can't do it and might even be gay. Suanan looked at Fuxin, not knowing why she was so sure. If these words were heard by him, who knew how dark his face would be? Xiaoxin, do you believe their words? That I went to find another guy because Gumo Cheng wasn't good enough? I do. Of course I do. So be it. It's no big deal. It's more important that you're happy. Fuxin laughed and said, moving closer to Suanan's ear. Just pay attention to your safety. With that, Fuxin winked at Suanan and smiled. Suanan smiled back at her. She was indeed a good friend, and compared to her father, Fuxin felt more like family to her. If something happened to her, Fuxin would definitely stand by her side no matter what. This made Suanan think of Gumo Cheng. He was doing the same for her, she realized. All right, Anan, let's not talk about such a troublesome matter. A beautiful shoulder throw stunned the onlookers. The assistant behind Gumo Cheng stared wide-eyed at the scene. The one who had ruthlessly thrown the man to the ground just now was his wife. Today Mr. Gu was going to visit the mall. When they were on the third floor, he stopped. The people following behind Mr. Gu were curious why he did not leave. They followed Mr. Gu's line of sight. On the second floor opposite, two girls were talking to a man and a woman. The assistant saw a girl's face and recognized her as the same girl who had shaken the car with Mr. Gu. He had only recently found out that Mr. Gu and the Su family's Suanan were together. In other words, the one whose car had been shaking. When he saw that Suanan was stopped by the man in front of her, the assistant, having seen Mu Jinyu himself, knew that he was Suanan's former fiancé. He was just about to ask Gumo Cheng if he should send someone over to save his wife. Before he could even speak, he saw Suanan throw Mu Jinyu heavily to the ground with a shoulder throw. The onlookers were as confused as Mu Jinyu, who was thrown to the ground. Mu Jinyu was smashed into a daze, and so were the rest of them. A girl actually tripped over a 1.8-meter tall man. Madam is too fierce. Can you bear it, sir? Looking at Mr. Gu's face again, there didn't seem to be any change. Madame's shoulder throw was very beautiful. In order to lighten the atmosphere, the assistant said with a smile. Gumo Cheng did not immediately reply to the assistant. Instead, he took out his phone and made a call. He saw that Suanan, who had been playing around with Fu Xin on the second floor, had withdrawn her smile when she saw his call. She had a panicked expression as she told Fu Xin to shut up. Hubby, where? Gumo Cheng asked. He then heard Suanan say the name of the mall. I'm right around the corner. I'll come over later to pick you up. Suan was stunned for a moment, then agreed. After he hung up the phone, he looked at Suanan and smiled, then started to chat and laugh with Fu Xin beside her. This kind of person should be thrown down. Suddenly, Gumo Cheng spoke. The assistant did not react at first, but after connecting the dots, he realized Mr. Gu was responding to his words. Suanan did not want to bring Fu Xin to see Gumo Cheng, but she was not afraid that Fu Xin would steal her husband. She and Fu Xin didn't like the same kind of man, and the one person who would never betray her in this world was definitely Fu Xin. Chapter 57. Don't bully her. The reason why she did not bring Fu Xin along was because Fu Xin made her feel embarrassed. However, when Fu Xin heard that Gumo Cheng was here to pick her up, she stuck even tighter and insisted on inspecting Gumo Cheng on her behalf. It was impossible to say what looked good on the surface, but it all depended on this person's character. Fu Xin felt that Gumo Cheng liked men, so she didn't really need to see what was inside the quality. It was obvious that Fu Xin wanted to see which one of them was stronger. The car was parked on the street, and Suanan went over. The car door opened, and Gumo Cheng walked out. Upon seeing Gumo Cheng coming out, Fu Xin's eyes lit up and excitedly grabbed Suanan's hand. And Anne, is he missing a wife? Is he missing a wife? With that, without waiting for Suanan's reply, Fu Xin had already gone ahead to talk to Gumo Cheng. Suanan immediately followed, staring at Gumo Cheng with both eyes, as infatuated as she could get. Suanan wanted to cover her face and leave. Why did she have such a disgraceful friend? Hello, Mr. Gu, Anan's friend, Fu Xin said with a smile. Handsome, truly handsome. His entire body was filled with the scent of opium poppy, so mature that it made a woman want to immediately pick him and hide him in her bosom. I know, Gumo Cheng replied. Lu Heng doted on his half-sister. So many people knew about this matter. What people discussed the most was that for this sister, Lu Hen had publicly slapped the Yu family's daughter's face just because of the Yu family's daughter, Fu Xin. Can I ask you a question, Mr. Gu? Fu Xin asked with a smile. Before she could finish, Suanan, who was standing right next to her, covered her mouth. Xiaoxin, stop asking. It's too embarrassing. Fu Xin looked at Suanan, indicating for her to pay attention to her image. Gumo Cheng was here. Suanan reacted and released Fu Xin. Ask away, Gumo Cheng said to Fu Xin as he looked at the awkward Suanan. Fu Xin raised her eyebrows at Suanan, and when she looked at him again, she retracted the smile on her face. Will you treat my Anan well? She's young, but in some ways she's not as good as you think. Don't think that just because her family doesn't care about her, that you can bully her with your status. The moment Fu Xin opened her mouth, every single sentence she spoke for Suanan made Suanan's heart move greatly. If you dare to bully her, I will stand up for her. Nope. Two sentences sounded out at the same time. The first was Fu Xin's, followed by Gumo Cheng's reply. I will be good to my wife, Gumo Cheng added. After hearing what Gumo Cheng had to say, Fu Xin nodded her head in satisfaction. She then pushed the stunned Suanan to Gumo Cheng's side and said, You guys go home. I'll go take a look again. Didn't you say we were going to eat together? Suanan asked. When she came, Fu Xin asked Gumo Cheng to treat her to a big meal. Am I that untactful? Fu Xin went close to Suanan's ear and whispered, I helped you appraise him. Although Gumo Cheng isn't that good, he's a good person. Try your best and straighten him. Saying that, Fu Xin picked up the clothes she bought on the ground, smiled, and waved towards Suanan and Gumo Cheng, thinking that it was a good thing she had foresight. She had prepared a few weapons for Suanan just now. After Fu Xin left, Suanan followed him onto the carriage. In the car, Gumo Cheng did not mention anything about seeing Suanan throw Mu Jingyu in the market. It was good for a girl to have some defensive skills. He didn't feel that it was wrong for Suanan to throw Mu Jingyu. That kind of person should be thrown. They didn't go straight home. Gumo Cheng had brought Suanan to eat Western cuisine. Their two-person world was very warm, even though they didn't talk much during the meal. Gumo Cheng was a man with very few words in the first place, so she didn't dare to say much in front of Gumo Cheng. Suanan enjoyed her meal. It's important to eat with someone. After Suanan finished her bath, she saw Gumo Cheng wearing a white shirt, sitting on the sofa and reading a book. Under the light of the lamp, the top two buttons on his shirt were opened, revealing the refined muscles in his chest. You can judge a man from his daily life. Gumo Cheng's family had a strong background. Among the men around his age, most had at least a few women outside. They were either Miss Tianjin or young stars, and they either stayed at a nightclub with their friends or took a room with them. However, Gumo Cheng's life was on the line at 2 points, the Gu family and Gu's. When he returned to the Gu household, other than taking care of his work, most of his free time was spent reading books. Suanan was still in a bit of a trance when she thought that such an almost perfect man had actually become her man, and she felt like she was dreaming. Looking at the man under the light again, Suanan thought of the clothes she bought for him today. Hubby, I bought you a shirt and suit. Do you want to try it? Suanan walked in front of Gu Mocheng and asked with a smile. Gu Mocheng raised his head. He knew that she was shopping today, so when he heard her mention buying him clothes, he felt warm in his heart. His clothes had been bought by assistants or Uncle Chen for the past 10 years. Yes. He nodded and watched as Suanan walked quickly to the cloakroom next door, before he stood up as well. Suanan regretted telling Gu Mocheng to go and try on the clothes. She should have already taken the clothes out and given them to Gu Mocheng to try on. Right now, the cloakroom was in a mess. The most important thing was not the mess, but the messy clothes on the floor. She remembered that she had never bought those. What school uniform? What nurse uniform? What work attire? Everything was scattered on the ground. Suanan casually picked up a set of clothes. It was a nurse's uniform. There were actually no buttons at the front of the clothes. They seemed to be interesting costumes. The point is, she didn't buy them. She didn't buy them today. While Suanan was thinking, she saw a snow-white little fellow running out from the pile of clothes. Whitey had something in its mouth, looked at Suanan, and ran toward the door. This fellow usually had her clothes in its mouth, but today it even had a pair of black pants in its pocket. And it was a thong. Suanan watched as Whitey took the undergarment and placed it beside Gu Mocheng. It circled around Gu Mocheng, and then placed the black thing on Gu Mocheng's leather shoes. Suanan looked carefully. Oh my god, it was a pair of black silk pants, and also a thong. Did she buy this? How could she not remember? Gu Mocheng lowered his head and also recognized what was in Whitey's mouth. When Whitey saw that he did not make any movements, it cried out and reminded him to pick it up. Gu Mocheng glanced at it. Whitey did not dare to shout anymore, and tactfully ran away. Suanan regretted calling Gu Mocheng in to try on clothes. She should have found them for him to try on. Chapter 58. I've already slept. What's the point of backing off? Now, all the beautiful clothes in the cloakroom that had been made into a floor by Whitey were becoming increasingly exaggerated, especially the black stains on Gu Mocheng's leather shoes. With a blushing face, she quickly walked in front of Gu Mocheng, bent down to pick up her panties, and explained, Hubby, I didn't buy them. Min. His light tone showed that Gu Mocheng did not believe her. Suanan stood up, and her head just happened to reach Gu Mocheng's chest. When he spoke, a warm aura surrounded her. These panties aren't very good, Gu Mocheng said in all seriousness. Oh, Suanan replied with a red face. I'll throw them away. As she spoke, 2 hands were already holding onto her waist, and she was pulled into Gu Mocheng's embrace. No need, Gu Mocheng said with his hoarse voice. He lowered his head and saw the faint redness on Suanan's beautiful face and couldn't help but kiss her. For the girl in his arms, his thoughts were so heavy that with a light touch, she picked out what he wanted. After a lingering kiss, Gu Mocheng whispered into Suanan's ear softly. His low voice made Suanan's heart race and her face turn red. You can wear them for me to see. After saying that, Gu Mocheng hugged her and kissed her again. Suanan's hands touched his back, tightened her grip, and kissed him back. Under Gu Mocheng's guidance, her kissing skills had improved a lot, and it was no longer just a single kiss that made her gasp for breath. Hubby. Suanan felt uncomfortable from the kiss. She wanted more. Gu Mocheng's hand had already touched her waist, and his other hand was holding onto her waist. The black fabric in his hand was also grabbed onto Suanan's palm. Suanan could feel the silkiness of the fabric, and the temperature of her face became even hotter. Originally, the 2 of them were here to try on clothes. If this continued, they would definitely end up doing something more. The phone in Gu Mocheng's pocket rang in the quiet space, disturbing the 2. With his excitement, Gu Mocheng did not want to pick up the phone, but since it kept ringing, he had no choice. Gu Mocheng unwillingly let go of Suanan. He looked at Suanan, whose face was completely red because of this, whose eyes were unfocused. He said in a gentle voice, Wait for me. I'll go take a bath first. Suanan unwillingly came out of his embrace. She liked the feeling of him holding her. Oh, she answered with a blush. Once inside the bathroom, Suanan slowly recovered from her thoughts. She looked at the silk panties in her hands and thought about the words that Gu Mocheng had whispered in her ear. Wait for me. Did he want her to change into these panties? Under the light, Suanan looked at the fabric in her hands, her face turning hot. Did she really have to wear them? Mom. Inside the Gu mansion, old Madame Gu looked around the hall, then walked to the side and called Gu Mocheng. Following that, she heard the loud sound of Gu Ziming being beaten up from the other side of the phone. Thinking about how Xiaoyan mentioned the gold-selling cave in front of the old man and exaggerated some details, the old man felt it was embarrassing. Grandfather, why are you hitting me again? Wasn't it yesterday? I'm not going out. I'm not going out. Grandma, save me. Hurry up and save me. Grandfather has nothing to do, so he started hitting me again. Gu Ziming shouted loudly, making the old lady's heart ache. Why is this old man hitting Ziming again? He really doesn't know how to act properly, the old mistress grumbled in heartache. With that, she turned to Gu Mocheng and said unhappily, Cheng, why didn't you bring her back yesterday? Your mother misses you so much that her heart aches. Without needing to see, Gu Mocheng could already imagine how old Lady Gu would speak in such an exaggerated manner. What happened last night? I couldn't get through to you on the phone. I'm busy, he replied indifferently. He was in his room with Suanan at the time old Lady Gu called. He paused, then said, Mom, I'll bring her back in a few days. Bring her back? Old Lady Gu was startled. Then she remembered the phone call from the Zhang family. She asked softly, Mocheng, you didn't marry the wrong person, did you? The old granny of the Zhang family called. She said that you brought people to the Su family to beat up her niece, and only then did we find out that you married the Su family's third miss. Who is Anan? Su Anan, Gu Mocheng said. Su family sent her. Old Madame Gu could tell that something was off, so she asked doubtfully. Gu Mocheng did not explain to them about the changes in the Su family. When Su Anan was sent to his bed, she had already slept, and she was now his wife. Even if you changed people, you should have told us. Your dad is very angry about it. Old Lady Gu said softly. However, the granddaughter of the Zhang family's old granny will definitely not be happy. She didn't like the Zhang family people and wasn't worried about her son's decisions. She definitely wouldn't agree to the old man going to the Su family to propose marriage. Fine. Old Lady Gu continued. I don't have any objections to your current wife, but she's called Su Anan. She's too young, and you don't like the Zhang family's granddaughter. No need. Gu Mocheng immediately rejected. No need? Old Lady Gu was stunned for a moment, then reacted and asked excitedly. Mocheng, you didn't sleep with her already, did you? She thought about it. Su Anan had already been sent to Gu Mocheng's place for almost a month, so she should have already slept with him by now. Yes. How did you sleep with that little girl just like that? Gu Mocheng was naturally displeased to hear Old Lady Gu call his wife a little girl. I'm already married to her. Old Lady Gu could not help but sigh. Forget it. You've already slept with her. Then she continued. Mocheng, you must pay more attention to your health and control yourself. Finding such a young wife at the age of 30. Sigh, all you men like 20-year-old girls. Old Lady Gu was speaking the truth, but no matter how Gu Mocheng listened, he felt something was off. Was he really 31 years old? If you sleep with someone, you have to be responsible for her. Then Old Lady Gu lectured him sincerely. I know, Gu Mocheng answered. I will get the marriage certificate with her in a few days and bring her back to the old manor. Obtain a certificate? Can you get it? Isn't the girl only 20? While Old Lady Gu was feeling strange, she heard the old man yell, Don't call Gu Mocheng. Gu Ziming took this opportunity to slip away and return to his room. Grandfather, call second uncle instead. I'll go to bed first. Stinky kid, stand still. Old man Gu roared loudly. Seeing that Gu Ziming had escaped, he walked toward Old Lady Gu and shouted, Tell Mocheng to send that girl back immediately. What the hell is going on? A 30-year-old man has no sense of propriety. He has already slept with her, so why should he send her back? Old Lady Gu retorted. Chapter 59. Did Gu Mocheng like dressing like this? What? He also heard the old man's shocked and angry voice. He, Gu Mocheng, is over 30 years old. The adult girl will go for a round. He really has the nerve to do this. A big round? Gu Mocheng was startled for a moment. The old man asked him to marry Su Zihan, but wasn't Su Zihan the same age as him? Su Anan knew of Su Anan's age from the Su family. Soon after, Gu Mocheng heard the old granny and the old master quarreling. Old man, do you know how to calculate that? This girl is only 20 years old. How can she be that much stronger? Humph. Besides, my son sleeping with a little girl is his ability and his charm. On the phone, the madam said protectively. If someone said that her grandson and son were bad, she would be the first one to jump out and help them, and that was no exception for the old man. He's even capable. Old man Gu mocked. He couldn't be bothered to lower himself to the same level as this old woman. If you have the ability, marry a little girl around 10 and come back to sleep. The old lady Gu refuted on behalf of Gu Mocheng. Gu Mocheng was used to their noise. When he heard, this young lady is 20, he was startled and then said to the old lady on the phone, Mom, I'll come back and see you when I have time. It's a success. Don't try to get along with your father. The older he is, the more confused he becomes. Little girl, you are too young and can't get a pass. You just have to wait for a year or two. Don't kick her away. Our Gu family has no plans to commit adultery. Yes, Gu Mocheng replied, then hung up and dialed the assistant's number. Send Su Anan's information to my mailbox. The half-asleep assistant nodded and reacted to what Gu Mocheng said. He replied, I'll send it to you right away, sir. I've been so busy lately that I forgot about it. Gu Mocheng hung up the phone and went back to his room. His mood was heavy. It was as if his previous mood had disappeared. 20. Thinking about Su Anan's age, he took out a cigarette and started smoking. When Su Anan came out of the bathroom, she smelt a faint scent of smoke. She saw Gu Mocheng standing at the window smoking. Hubby. She lowered her head shyly as she called out, thinking of her panties under her nightgown. I'm done. Gu Mocheng turned around and saw that Su Anan had come out of the bath. Because of the hot air being too shy, her face was completely red. Even her neck started to turn red. He came back to his senses and flicked the ash on his cigarette with his finger. You go to sleep first. I have some matters to take care of. Saying that, Gu Mocheng walked out of the room. Suanan looked at Gumocheng, who had left. Didn't he say that he would? There might be an urgent matter for him to deal with. The smell of smoke in the study was very strong. When Gumocheng was troubled, he would usually smoke cigarettes, and very fiercely. The ashtray on the desk was full of cigarette butts. He looked at the information on Suanan on the computer screen, extinguished the cigarette in his hand, and took out another. Suanan, 20 years old. September? It was October, though a month had passed. Thinking back to what the old man and the old lady had said, Gumocheng fiercely smoked. Damn it, he slept with a young lady who was 10 years younger than him. Although there was a difference of 2 years, between 20 and 21 years of age, these 2 years were more than enough for Gumocheng to be at a loss. As soon as he turned 20, he slept. As he thought about it, Gumocheng sucked in a mouthful of smoke. Gumocheng could not watch the information that Suanan had given him. He originally wanted to sleep with his own little wife, but now he had no mood to do so. How could he still sleep here? Get him back. Impossible. He had already slept, so he couldn't return it. 31 years old. 20 Gumocheng thought, until his scalp went numb, then started smoking unconsciously. Not long after, the room was filled with the smell of cigarettes, enveloping Gumocheng within. Anan, how is it? After Gumocheng left, Suanan was unable to sleep by herself. After about half an hour, she received a call from Fu Xin. How about what? Suanan did not understand. You're not wearing it. I'll tell you which sets of clothes are attractive. Once you wear them, I guarantee that Gumocheng will pounce on you with just one look. Fu Xin thought about the scene of Suanan getting pushed down on the phone, and she was very excited. So it's you. Suanan understood what Fu Xin meant. The pile of clothes that she was wearing was bought by Fu Xin. When did you buy it? Heh. Fu Xin laughed. Of course, without Suanan's knowledge, she had sneaked into an interesting underwear store to buy it. Anan, you don't have to be this polite with me. Consider these clothes as a gift from me to you and Gumocheng. Fu Xin giggled and said, Fu Xin. Suanan was annoyed. What do you mean by don't stand on ceremony? Is that the main point? Furthermore, all of these clothes were her cards. Anan, you're not wearing it? Then why don't you quickly change it for me? I can guarantee that Gumocheng will stare at it until his eyes bulge out. Suanan felt that she had accidentally met Fu Xin, her bad friend. Fu Xin. Anan, I am doing this for your own good. Gumocheng is such a good man, you better hurry up. Saying that, Fu Xin laughed. Suanan was so angry that she couldn't say anything. Didn't she say that Gumocheng was gay? All right, I won't disturb your two-person world anymore. Fu Xin felt that Suanan was angry, so she ended the call before Suanan got angry. Suanan, do your best. Fu Xin. Suanan called out, but Fu Xin had already hung up. Annoyed, she clamped the phone shut and turned over the bed and went to the cloakroom. She looked down at the clothes at her feet, looked at the attractive clothes, and crouched down to pick them up. Did Gumocheng like her dressing like this? When she woke up in the morning, Suanan did not see Gumocheng. Mr. went to the company. Gumocheng stayed at home for a few days, and Suanan almost forgot that he was a very busy man, the person in charge of the goose. Without Gumocheng, she still had the whitey. In the whitey's den, Suanan saw a man wearing a mask and squatting in front of the whitey, who knew what he was doing. He turned around and looked at Suanan with those eyes. Suanan felt that she had seen them somewhere before. It's you. The doctor in front took off his mask. Suanan recognized that it was the doctor Su family invited for her sister last time on the street. She looked at the whitey that was walking around her, then sized Han Longyi up. He's a vet. Su family actually invited a vet to treat big sister. Veterinarians? No, I'm a doctor. Han Longyi smiled and said he was a highly skilled doctor. Oh. Suanan replied as she continued to tease the whitey, thinking that he was a doctor that the Gu family had invited to examine it. Sister-in-law. Han Longyi called out again. Suanan raised her head and looked at the man who smiled at her in surprise. Sister-in-law? This was calling her. Chapter 60. Han Longyi introduced himself. I am Han Longyi, Mocheng's brother. Oh, Suanan agreed. So he was Gumocheng's brother. No wonder they called her sister-in-law. Han Longyi looked at Suanan, who was playing with Whitey, and the woman from the top floor of the Su family came to his mind. Both of them had a pair of bright eyes, so her smiling appearance should be as beautiful as Suanan. Is your sister sick? Han Longyi came back to reality and asked. Suanan immediately stood up and reached out to cover his mouth. She had almost forgotten that this man had seen her elder sister before. He was a friend of Gumocheng's. Don't talk nonsense, Suanan said anxiously. If he said something wrong, he would implicate her sister. In Suwa's heart, there was nothing more important than his own face. He hated her sister for her disobedience. My sister is abroad. The last time he went to the Su family, Han Longyi was curious about why there was a woman locked up there. When Suanan called her big sister, he was even more curious. According to his knowledge, Suanan had 2 big sisters, and one of them was Su Zihan, who had another father and mother along with her, and one of them was Su Ruochu, who had married into a foreign country. 7 years ago, Su Ruochu was famous for being a young lady known throughout Peace City. It was a pity that he had not seen her in action when he was abroad. On the top floor was a beautiful doll with dull eyes and a thin face, but even so, that didn't hinder her beauty. Su Anan released her hand and looked around. Hanlong laughed and said, I said the wrong thing. Surochu had been locked up by the Su family for 7 years, and the people outside knew nothing about this matter. Looking at Su Anan's nervous expression when he mentioned Surochu, he was very curious as to why Surochu had been locked up and had gone crazy for so many years. You didn't tell Gumo Cheng about my sister? Su Anan asked worriedly. Before she had the ability, the fewer people who knew about her sister's situation, the better. Nope. Hanlong shook his head. How long has your sister been ill? He was not referring to Surochu's fever, but rather her becoming a crazy idiot. 7 years, Su Anan said. She had a deep impression of what happened 7 years ago. At that time, she was only 12 years old. She remembered that her elder sister was brought back from outside by Su Hua and then locked in the attic. At first, she didn't go crazy and begged Su Hua to let her go. Su Hua was extremely furious. Her sister refused to listen to him and went and found a poor guy to run away with, just like she did in the Su family. He didn't allow his carefully cultivated Surochu to escape his control. He didn't like the man her sister had found, so he locked her up on the top floor regardless of anything. He wanted her sister to agree to separate from the man and marry someone else before he let her out. She sneaked up to the top floor and let her sister go. She didn't know what had happened to her escaped sister, but when she returned, she felt that something was wrong. Because she had secretly let her elder sister go, she was beaten by Su Hua and then sent by Su Hua to boarding school. She stayed for a year. When she returned home, she found out that her sister had gone mad. Her sister was no longer of use to Su Hua, so he could still be considered to have some kinship with her. He did not leave her in the mental hospital, but locked her up on the top floor of the Su family. At least her elder sister had a meal in the Su family, a warm bed to sleep on, and was under Su Hua's protection. So long, Hanlong frowned. Why didn't you find a doctor for her? Su Anan pursed her lips and smiled. Why didn't she look for a doctor? Su Hua was afraid of losing face. His eldest daughter had become a madwoman, which would affect his reputation more than anything. He would rather lock her up and raise her for her entire life than let others know of the shameless things that happened in the Su family. Your sister has a heart attack, Hanlong said again. Hearing Hanlong's words, Su Anan's eyes lit up. That's right, he was a doctor. Can you heal my sister? Su Anan asked excitedly. Su Hua said he would find a doctor for her sister. Rather than waiting for Su Hua to find a doctor, it would be better to look for Hanlong. You still need a doctor for mental illness? Hanlong said, but your sister has been sick for so long, you have to take it slow. Hanlong, help my sister get treated. Su Anan happily grabbed Hanlong's hand. After Gumo Cheng went to the Su family to help her teach Su Zihan a lesson, Su Hua's attitude toward her had improved. If she brought a doctor back now, Su Hua would probably agree to it. It was also the condition she gave to Gumo Cheng when she first married him. All right, Hanlong replied. He lowered his head and looked at the hand she was holding, then immediately pulled back in fear. Sister-in-law, speak properly. Don't move. If second brother saw sister-in-law holding his hand, according to second brother's narrow-minded personality, he would definitely wash his hands 100 times. You agreed? Su Anan retracted her hand. She was surprised at Hanlong's reaction. She had only touched his hand. Yes. She quickly went to the Su family and got Su Hua to promise to invite a doctor to treat her sister. When she thought about it, Su Anan's mood became happy, and she thought about another matter as she looked at Hanlong. You and Xiaoyan are acquainted? Hanlong nodded. He, Xiaoyan, and Gumo Cheng were brothers, and their relationship was very good. Then Xiaoyan has a very good relationship with him. Su Anan asked slowly. Yes. Xiaoyan was famous for being a hooligan and a ruffian. He was already giving Gumo Cheng some face from the same generation as him. Oh, Su Anan replied meaningfully. She also shook her head and muttered to herself, Impossible, absolutely impossible. Please don't let Xiaoxin brainwash me. Gumo Cheng was very strong. How could he be together with Xiaoyan? Maybe he liked women and he liked men. Su Anan shook her head again. It was all because of the article Xiaoxin sent over. Right now, her mind was filled with Gumo Cheng and Xiaoyan as a couple, and more importantly, she kept that piece of text in her phone. Because Gumo Cheng, who had originally wanted to sleep with her, suddenly stopped sleeping. She could not fall asleep and read the article about Gumo Cheng and Xiaoyan again. She had wanted to find some doubt in the text to prove Xiaoxin wrong. But she didn't know that the more she read, the more her brain had been brainwashed. Gumo Cheng disappeared from Su Anan's world again. She did not see him when she woke up in the morning, nor did she see him before she went to sleep at night. It was only when she was sleeping at night that she heard the sounds of cars downstairs. Uncle Chen said that Mr. Gu had been very busy lately and had come back late. Women were very sensitive. Su Anan always felt that Gumo Cheng left early and returned late, as if he was avoiding her. She did not know where she went wrong and why Gumo Cheng was suddenly hiding from her. Was it about the underwear incident last time? Did he not like her buying those clothes? But that day, he told her to put them on. Su Anan couldn't understand, so she didn't want to waste time thinking about it.